Hello and welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
I am Adam Summers, and you are in season 6 of Wrestling at Random, where the theme is more wrestling than ever. Yes, the theme for season 5 was also more wrestling than ever, but trust us, there are some 20,000 additional hours of wrestling dumped into the randomizer for season 6, so I think that tagline applies. Had a lot of stuff here in season 6, some very, very mainstream stuff, some things that were, again, justifying the tagline of more wrestling than ever, things really off the beaten path. This week's show, I was super excited, Jeremy, when you sent this to me, because this falls into that category of things I remember reading about as a child in the magazines, but never saw, and it was always one of those things I really wanted to see, but never got around to it. This is Vader, or should we say Bull Power, in Germany, Catch Wrestling Association, the CWA. Vader taking on Otto Wanz as part of CWA television, December 22nd, 1989. Jeremy, you're going to get into it, but this is a fascinating time period for Vader in that he's already debuted in Japan as Big Van Vader in 1987, and almost exactly 2 years prior in 1987. But he was also wrestling at that time, and before then in the CWA as Bull Power. So here in 1989, the Vader character has already been around for 2 years, but he is going back to Catch Wrestling Association in Germany, wrestling as Bull Power.
We will get into the full history of Otto Wanz and wrestling in Germany, but just a reminder for our new listeners how this works. We didn't just pick this show just because we wanted to watch it. It was something that you were excited to see. That's not why we picked the show. We fire up the randomizer. The randomizer will pick a show from those thousands and thousands of hours, the more wrestling than ever. It will pull an episode of anything possible for us to watch. Here it picked this. I couldn't tell if this was a television broadcast, if this was a commercial tape. I couldn't tell what this was.
This definitely felt like it was something that at least had originally been broadcast on television. We get into the match in the show proper. We'll talk about it.
It looked like it had commercial breaks.
It did. This felt, I've never seen anything in pro wrestling feel more like a late 80s to even mid to late 90s Showtime boxing production or HBO boxing production in pro wrestling.
Yeah, we mentioned all the hours of pro wrestling that go into the randomizer. People have been asking hey, season 6, where did you get that episode? And that episode of New Japan Eurosport. It's like, well, we got that from private collections. We've loaded private collections of video in addition to all the publicly available content out there on the internet into the randomizer. So it could pull anything from anywhere, the deepest, darkest corners of the internet.
I believe some of these shows were available on Silk Road back in the day. But yeah, this the show has garnered enough momentum that we have had people reach out to us with their private collections and say, hey, would you like to include this in the randomizer? And we're like, hell yes.
Yes, please.
And so that is that has been the case for some of these. However, I believe this one, as of the time of this recording, is available on YouTube.
This is one of those that is publicly available. It is up on YouTube if you look for Otto Wanz versus Bull Power from Bremen, December 22nd, 1989. The CWA Catch Wrestling Association, like you mentioned. The town of Bremen is in Germany. It's in northwest Germany. It is about 466 miles outside of Vienna, Austria, if you were wondering how far those two things are away, because you had a lot of this territory here, Germany, Austria, a lot of the European areas that cover. We'll get into this entire territory here as we learn a little bit about Otto Wanz. Otto Wanz comes to you from Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Otto Wanz was the promoter top star and perennial heavyweight champion in Germany and Austria during the 70s and 80s, during the era of the Catch Wrestling Association. In North America, Otto Wanz was best known for what was at the time probably the most shocking world championship result of its era, when he defeated Nick Bockwinkel on August 29th, 1982 at the St. Paul Civic Center before 12,000 fans.
Yeah, that's one of those, I believe, which happened multiple times with the AWA title. One of those, someone bought the AWA title for themselves, correct, basically. Yeah, and particularly, like, this is, like, I've seen clips of Otto Wanz, but this match is the first full match I've seen of him. Vader is a great opponent for him. I, in my wildest dreams, cannot fathom what a Nick Bockwinkel versus Otto Wanz match would look like in 1982. I'm sure Nick Bockwinkel had greater tests of his ability as one of the best wrestlers of all time, but I can't imagine he had too many greater tests than that match in terms of getting something out of Otto Wanz.
No, just to put in perspective how shocking this title change was, from February of 1967, when Vern Gagne defeated Mad Dog Vachon, he held that title all the until Nick Bockwinkel lost to Otto Wanz. For the most part, the AWA title had only been held by Gagne and Bockwinkel. And that's
Sounds about right.
So this was a big deal. Wanz arrived in the AWA in 1982, billed as the top heavyweight in Europe. He's 6'2" and looks every bit of 389 pounds.
He is not quite as big, but it is striking in terms of some of the parallels you could draw beyond just their physical appearance. But he is a not gray and slightly smaller version of Big Daddy.
At one point, Wanz was listed in the Guinness Book of World Records for his ability to tear up telephone books.
Oh, one of those guys. I feel like that's not been an uncommon thing in professional
He held
wrestling.
the world record for it. Wanz was reportedly paid $50,000 for the credibility to promote himself as winning a world title in the U.S. So you mentioned buying the AWA title. Cost $50,000 in 1982.
Yeah, I believe it was also something somewhat similar when Jumbo Tsuruta won the AWA title that was purchased by Baba. I could be wrong, obviously, that relationship, but it definitely wasn't the only time that ever happened with that title.
Bockwinkel and Vern Gagne also got trips to Austria as working vacations as part of this deal. Wanz started his promotion in 1977 with himself as the top star. It was built around long tournaments every year in Vienna, while partner Peter William promoted tournaments in Bremen, which was their best city. Best city of the promotion was Bremen. It was such a great territory to work and learn, said Lance Storm, who worked there in the 90s.
That's what I was just going to say. I recall hearing Lance Storm on many a podcast talk about working this circuit, how unique it was.
Storm says, you do likely 150 to 160 matches in the 6-month season with almost no travel because they were within a few hundred miles of each other.
It wasn't a lot of time too, or maybe I'm thinking of a different territory, but like these would be in like circus tents basically. Finley worked this promotion quite a bit as well.
Not huge money, but an easy territory. Lots of different styles because there were guys from all over the world. It was a super tight locker room because you spent so much time together. The round system was fun to learn too. Great for storytelling, says Lance Storm. Wanz headlined big shows against names like Andre the Giant, who Otto Wanz slammed and beat via countout December 19th, 1987. Several months after the famous Hogan-Andre the Giant match from the Pontiac Silverdome. From 1981 to 1988, the final show of the year in Bremen, which those who went all over the world said was one of the best shows for atmosphere of any show in the world. It sold out every year. It was claimed that he was the only man to have slammed both Andre the Giant and Yokozuna.
Wow.
During this period, a major cigarette company called Milde Sorte sponsored Wanz, and their logo was on his wrestling singlet. He was first put in the Guinness Book of World Records when he ripped through 20 Vienna phone books in 30 seconds. At one point, a hotel in Las Vegas brought him into Las Vegas for $4,200 per week, free food and lodging, to be part of their shows where he'd just sit there and tear up phone books. His last and perhaps most famous rival was Bull Power. Leon White, the future Vader, who Wanz pushed as a top star before he became an international star as Big Van Vader in New Japan. The promotion of the program was always about the young powerhouse facing the guy who was years earlier. People they saw him ripping up the telephone books on television and vanquishing huge heavyweights like Andre the Giant. So it was all about the young powerhouse facing this guy. Wanz billed his retirement match in his hometown in Austria on June 30th, 1990. Where he beat Bull Power to win back the title for the final time. Wanz retired. The title was given back to Bull Power. Wanz came out of retirement many times. His retirement match in Bremen was on one of those year-end major shows I told you about. It was on December 22nd, 1990. So 1 year after the show we're about to review here. He defeated Terry Funk before a record crowd of 15,000 fans.
So he defeated the symmetry of Otto Wanz doing a bunch of retirement matches, and his final retirement match was against the king of retirement matches, Terry Funk. Oh man, that would be, talk about things that our patrons could suggest for us to watch. If there is tape of Otto Wanz against Terry Funk in 1990, my lord, that'd be fascinating. You also mentioned 15,000 fans. Like the show that we're about to review had about 8,000 fans, and that looked packed in this building. So I can only imagine what double that would look like if that was in fact a legit number.
He came back a few times for the major Bremen shows until finally retiring for good at the age of 53 on August 23rd, 1996. A match in Vienna where he once again beat Terry Funk.
That is so his fake, one of his many fake retirement matches, and then his final retirement match was, wow. That's again pro wrestling. Everybody, you couldn't script it better if you tried.
By the time of his 1996 retirement match with Funk, all of these comebacks had diminishing returns, and the crowd was down to 850 people.
Oh, that's depressing. Talk about not knowing when it's time to hang him up.
Dave draws a good parallel here to Vern Gagne having big success with his retirement matches and then constantly coming back all the way to diminishing returns as well. And so a lot of parallels between Otto Wanz and Vern Gagne.
Yeah. People not believing it's going to be a retirement, your fan base aging out as you do that every time. Not a good call. So this show, as you mentioned, December 22nd, 1989 in Bremen, 8,000 fans. Eurosport TV was where this show originally aired. Obviously, the video that we have, the match we're going to talk about, is the main event, Otto Wanz against future Vader for the CWA World title. There are other matches that took place on this card, and it is an interesting list of professional wrestlers. The opener was, as I mentioned, a guy who spent a lot of time in the CWA, Fit Finlay, with Princess Paula defeating Miles Zerno. Again, one of those names that I always just remember seeing in the magazines, having no idea who it was. Second match, Tony St. Clair, who people may remember from some New Japan appearances, in addition to obviously wrestling in Europe, taking on Sal Bellomo.
We've seen Sal Bellomo.
Oh, Sal Bellomo, who was a low card guy in the WWF way back in the day. Early ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling's mainstay, Sal Bellomo. The third match featured Steve Wright, the father of Alex Wright, defeating Moondog Rex in the fourth round. Imagine Moondog Rex doing rounds or something. Rambo, who is really, when you think about the CWA, to me at least, you think of You think of Bull Power, you think of Otto Wanz, and then Rambo is another one of those guys. You'd always see the name in the magazines, not really have any idea who it was. He defeated Cannonball Grizzly. Do you know, Jeremy, who Cannonball Grizzly was?
Cannonball Grizzly. I do not.
Does the phrase "Yo baby, yo baby, yo baby, yo" mean anything?
PN News?
This
Wow.
was the future PN News here, falling to Rambo in the finals of the Catch Cup 1989. We then had the semifinal on the show was Eddie Steinblock and Hercules Boyd defeating Klaus Kauroff and Kendo Sasaki. Not Kendo Nagasaki, but Kendo Sasaki.
And you mentioned this was the main event.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Kendo Sasaki. This is the future Kensuke Sasaki. So this is 3 years before I saw Kensuke Sasaki on an excursion of sorts. It was at my second ever show I went to for WCW in the summer of 1992. Obviously already a star, teaming with Hiroshi Hase, but here, this must have been his real initial excursion as Kendo Sasaki. Wow.
This main event, this show opens with Vader walking in a suit. He's got his mask on. He's looking cool. This is a cool look for him.
And he's got it's not the full face mask, that I always associate with him in like late 80s, early 90s. New Japan, this is that like laces all over the place mask that you more associate with like 93, 94 Vader. It's so weird to see him here in 1989 with that.
Otto Wanz with a promo that he's the real champion. Bull Power with a quick promo.
Otto Wanz has the weirdest body ever. And his gear, again, he's like this tall, portly man. But his gear looks like he's like a top star in like 1992 All Japan Women. It's the strangest thing. These like triangular, like shoulder pad type things sticking out over his singlet. Just a very odd look. The future Vader is here. He's saying he's the bull. He's doing some, like, if you remember Vader would sometimes do this weird accent in his promos. This is even further into the weirdness of whatever this accent was. But otherwise, yes, he's Bull Power, but he is Vader here.
Both men come into the ring. Bull Power is the champion. Vaughn's the challenger. We get this big fight feel. You mentioned the boxing type of presentation. This is it right here. We get the national anthems after the ring introductions. Big match feel here in the arena.
Production, like the way the ring is lit, the camera placement as the wrestlers come out to the ring, everything feels, like I said, HBO, even more so, it feels like a big Showtime boxing from the early to mid 90s. It's a very unique presentation for professional wrestling. I was pleasantly surprised to see we have English commentary here.
English commentary, I was surprised.
I was turning my captions auto-translate on my YouTube, but instead we have English commentary. Mick Perry is the man's name. He says it is a unique and historic occasion, as we have the potential to see the first ever 4-time heavyweight champion in the history of professional wrestling. Otto Wanz of France and Austria is how he is described. He mentioned the intros. Vader comes out. He's got an American flag and the big. He's got the
you mentioned Vader. Mick Perry, but you forgot his broadcast partner, Paco Perez.
Paco Perez, who is a heel commentator here, like not crazy over the top heel. Well, until later in the match, he definitely gets very much the prototypical heel commentator. Like I said, Vader has that more like laced up sort of mask. He's wearing the bottoms, like the long tights with the red lightning bolts up the side that you would associate with him wearing as Vader in Japan, but he does not have the singlet top. And this is where I note, oh, yeah, it must be Tony St. Clair as one of the guys in Otto's corner, because Tony St. Clair, he's proud of his New Japan Pro Wrestling t-shirt. He's rocking it just like Tommy Rogers is rocking an All Japan track jacket in ECW in 1998.
I want that All Japan track jacket that Tommy Rogers wore in ECW so bad. So the rules for this heavyweight championship match and the rules for the CWA, these are rounds like we mentioned. So 15 rounds, each round 3 minutes.
15 3-minute rounds. So that's really, it's the old school heavyweight championship boxing way back in the day where you do 15 rounds. And it's interesting because, like, yeah, it's rounds, so it's got that in common with World of Sport, but stylistically, at least with these guys, it could not be more different. Former, as you said, it's Paco Perez, former All America's champion, as a color commentator. He says this is the best atmosphere ever, and honestly, for what this is an incredible atmosphere.
Incredible.
Like the idea that, like, we think about wrestling in Mexico, wrestling in Japan, wrestling in the United States, the fact that you had Catch Wrestling Association, which most people outside of this area of the world were not even aware of, drawing this huge crowds with this unbelievable presentation on television. Like, it's not quite as off the beaten path as Telecatch from Brazil, which we had no idea existed. We never saw that in the magazines as kids, but still, like, if someone had never heard of this, it's wild to see this.
Let's get into the match. It starts round 1. Good place to start. Bull Power with shots in the corner, punches, beats Wanz down in the corner.
Immediately, it's the classic Vader hammers in the corner. Otto takes a knee. Vader, Bull Power's yelling at him to get up. More headbutts in the corner. Otto is up and trying to shake it off, and Paco is already saying that Otto Wanz is finished. This match, this fight is over. It is not, in fact, over, as Otto Wanz bulls Vader into the corner, hits him with some overhand clubs and knees and punches. Vader is mad as they reset. It's one of my favorite Vader things, of which there are many, because he is maybe my favorite professional wrestler of all time. He is certainly in the top 5 ever. When Vader would take punishment early in a match, and he would get so angry, like he was offended by the idea that someone could try to hurt him. I always loved that. It always felt like he legitimately was going to hurt someone.
After the reset, the big men ram into each other a few times, and then Power hits a clothesline, knocks Wanz down.
Huge short lariat. Otto is bleeding. His nose looks like it's busted already. Bull Power grinds Otto Wanz down into an armbar, also like pulling the hair from this down position. Horn blasts, end of round 1. Otto's face, his nose
it's a mess after 1 round.
Bloody mess. Vader may not have been the most fun man to work with. I will grant people that, but my God, as a fan, was he fun to watch. Here, Tony St. Clair and Steve Wright, they are the cornermen for Otto Wanz. We got a slow-mo of the clothesline that appeared to break Otto Wanz's nose. This was a time where a slow-mo was perfectly used here. It looked great. And again, like the production here, this is so much like boxing with the in-between rounds. You get the one replay. We don't have, anyone doing the scoring like you would have on a big boxing fight, a third guy in the booth doing scoring, but otherwise really, really cool.
Round 2, more strikes and Wanz is down again. Power yelling at him to get up. Wanz is up, does a single leg takedown of Power, and he's working on a leg. Power gets to the ropes, rolls outside to regroup.
This was a single leg takedown. He turns into like a half crab of sorts, or a leg lever, as Mick Perry calls it. Like you said, Vader gets the ropes, battles to the floor. Big Otto, a chance he clearly, again, is the national hero here.
Back inside, Wanz hits a clothesline. Power's down again. He gets to his feet as the round comes to an end.
And we should mention, like, the rules here are like it's knockout or a submission. We get down counts here, again, as we would see in things like World of Sport or UWF or UWFI, which this stylistically is so different from that, but the rule set is at least somewhat similar. Round two over. Like there was not a buzzer. We didn't have any sort of clock on the screen, but it's over. To your point about there may have been commercial breaks. I hope for the sake of these wrestlers there were commercial breaks between the rounds, because if not, it is maybe like a 10-second break between rounds. Like with only 10 seconds, if I'm a wrestler, whether it's, I'm thinking about it as being kayfabe or a real fight, I would rather not have the break than a 10-second break.
Round three, more clubbing blows in the corner. Power slams Wanz, and then Power hits a running sunset flip.
A running sunset flip. This was not off the top rope, not up the second rope. I was not prepared. And again, I've seen Vader hit moonsaults. I've seen Vader backflip back into the ring over the top rope off the apron. I don't think I've ever seen a running sunset flip from Vader, and he gets a 2 count. So I guess we do have pinfall attempts in the mix here as well.
We get the sick headbutts that we have seen from Vader. We get to see him here. Another punch, and Wanz is on his knees. Power with more big forearms in the corner. An avalanche. Wanz collapses in the corner. He's saved by the bell as the round ends.
Yeah, this was just complete domination from Vader, Bull Power, whether it was palm strikes, short forearms, short lariats, nasty straight punches to the broken nose, busting it over already. Maybe my favorite thing about this, other than just Vader swarming this man for the entire 3 minutes, the second the bell goes off and, Otto, like you said, is saved by the bell, the urgency from Tony St. Clair and Steve Wright to run into the ring and get in there and help him up, him being Otto Wanz, and bring him back to the corner was a great touch.
Round four. Power dominating still with more shots until Wanz explodes out of the corner with a clothesline. He lays in some forearms and he hits an avalanche of his own. Wanz hits a vertical suplex.
Crowd is going nuts after that vertical suplex. And you should mention that Avalanche just before got an 8 count out of Vader. So this is the most sustained offense that we've seen from Otto Wanz to this point. He then, after hitting that suplex, getting that near fall, dives in for a noogie to the eye instead of a pin. This was a decision.
When was the last noogie we saw? That was Austin Idol doing it in Detroit in 1978.
Yes, Detroit in 1978. We do not have confirmation of how deep Otto Wanz was into the tape trading scene. I love the idea of an Otto Wanz alliance of sorts with Austin Idol. Like they tape traded back and forth. I could imagine that.
Wanz picks a leg and trips Power down to the mat. He puts on a leg lock as the round expires. Good round for Otto Wanz.
This was by far the best round for Otto Wanz. He even hit a nice European uppercut, which I wasn't expecting. I also liked how Mick Perry, the play-by-play man, was concerned about all the punches in this match, and Paco's basically like, "What the hell did you expect?" They also said that that Otto first won this championship 13 years prior. He was the first champion of the CWA. During the break, such as it was between round 4 and 5, we get a replay of the big suplex that Otto hit. I love the use of the replays. They actually picked things that looked good and were impactful and were the main focus of the match, instead of like, let's find the thing that looked the worst and slow it to half a frame per second.
We talked about the atmosphere and the atmosphere between rounds here. The crowd is singing the stuff we love from the soccer and football type of atmospheres here. You've got it here. These and we've seen it a lot with European wrestling crowds as well. So here we get it. This crowd is great, and they are into it and singing here before round 5.
The crowd is great. The singing is great. They are mic'd up very well. We also get tremendous shots throughout this match of the crowd and of people cheering, and it's one of the more effective ways, times I should say, I've seen that done. We've watched some shows. I remember I can't remember what year it was. There was a WCW show in particular that we watched. It was like every 45 seconds they would cut to people in the crowd. It was so distracting. TNA did that sometimes. This was like, they never did it at a time where it detracted from or distracted from what you were seeing. It did a good job of like placing you in this time and seeing how important, how big of a show this was and how big the crowd was.
Round 5. Big punches from Power. Palm thrust and Wanz drops to the mat. Power goes to the top rope and he hits like a Vader flying body attack off the top.
Yeah, it's a top rope flying version of the, what, when you see him do the running standing Vader bomb in the corner. And this is like, talk about, Vader hitting moonsaults, Vader hitting top rope splashes here. This might be the most impressive athletic feat, I should say, I've ever seen from Vader, in that these ropes are basically boxing ring ropes.
Yes.
His ability to jump off the top and hit Otto Wanz, like, these ropes are bouncing up and down. It's weird in that, like, Bull Power Vader has spent a lot of his time in his career to this point in the CWA. I would have assumed that both Mick Perry and Paco Perez would have seen Vader do this, but they keep talking about how, like, he kind of missed this. This is exactly
it's exactly
this
right.
is a Vader move. He would hit this all the time, and he hit it perfectly.
Wanz gets up. Power knocks him down again with a clothesline. Power locks on an armbar, then transitions to a cravat as the round expires.
Again, another really fun round, seeing Vader both come flying off the top and then seeing, him transition an armbar into a cravat. I don't remember too many Vader cravats.
No.
They show a replay of the top rope flying Vader bomb, and again say he didn't get all of it, and I am watching all of it gotten.
All of it was had and gotten. As we go to round 6, Wanz comes out fighting, and he clotheslines Power over the top rope to the floor. Wanz follows him outside. They're fighting into the crowd. Power is busted open. Back inside, more strikes from Wanz, and he drops Power to the mat. Wanz then body slams Power. Power keeps getting up. He keeps getting up. They trade clubbing blows, and you feel like Bull Power here was saved by the bell after round 6.
And it's also classic Vader, where, like, there's always an air of, like, oh, is he really pissed? Oh, is he mad at the ref? Is he, like, taking liberties with his opponent? Like, the ref is telling Bull Power Vader something as he's getting up. He gets up at 9 as the bell goes, and Vader is mad. He's yelling at the ref. Also, we should note there's a manager in this match for Vader. It's like Orig Williams, I think is the man's name. I've never seen this guy before.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out.
I had to look up. His alter ego is El Bandito. He was he started wrestling in 1950 and retired in 1991.
We go to our final round. Round number 7. Now this is of 15, so we're almost halfway through the schedule. If this was going to go to the time limit, to the round limit here, but we are not. We go to round 7. They trade shots, big clubbing blows again. Wanz backs him into the corner. He hits like a short avalanche. They head outside the ring. Vader misses a charge and hits the ring post. They get back inside. We get a terrible clothesline that drops Power again.
Yeah, Otto, his execution is not good through the majority of this match. Like I said, there's a few things that are, like, he does surprisingly well. The start of this round is awesome, though, because, like, they're exhausted. Like, at the end of the 6th round, Vader is almost done. He basically has, like, a huge burst of energy as they're yelling at each other and throwing to start. Also, we talked about how Paco started on commentary not being too far to the heel commentator side. He loses his mind, and it's so funny because earlier in the match, like, he's chastising Mick Perry for complaining about punches. Then here, as Vader misses the running Vader bomb and posts himself, as you mentioned, Paco is freaking out, saying, this shouldn't be allowed. It should be a disqualification.
So after this clothesline dropped Power again, we get another clothesline dropping him. And then Power collapsed. He can't get up. He doesn't answer the 10 count, which means we have a new champion, the new champion, Otto Wanz.
Yeah, they're both down. If Otto hits that clothesline and collapses, so we have a double down, and Otto gets up just before the 10. Vader does not. Otto Wanz is the new CWA world champion, ending Vader's reign and ending what was a very historic period of time, as he was legitimately the first man in professional wrestling history to hold 3 recognized world titles on 3 different continents, between the IWGP title, obviously in Japan, this championship in Germany, and then the UWA title that he won from El Canek in Mexico, all at the same time. So this ended that triple crown of sorts for Vader. He's up right away. He shakes Otto Wanz's hand, and then we get, I know I keep saying it, but we get the most Showtime boxing in-ring interview, or HBO boxing. I'm looking for Larry Merchant, HBO boxing, to be the interviewer here for Otto Wanz.
Yeah, really fun show. Really neat to see a territory that I had never seen anything from, and getting to see, like you mentioned, this time period where he is Big Van Vader, but he's wrestling as Bull Power here, as a fully formed Vader.
Yeah, I love this. It's one of those things that I remember as an 8 or 9-year-old reading about this in the magazines and PWI and the Wrestler, those sorts of things, but never, saw pictures, but never seeing it, never seeing anything from this territory, never having actually seen a full Otto Wanz match, but hearing the stories about what he was and what he wasn't. And so you just imagine, did this suck? What was this? As hearing about it as a kid, building it up. This was really, really good. And man, you want to find examples of how great Vader was, getting this good of a match out of a guy as limited and as late in his career as Otto Wanz. And yes, the atmosphere, where it was, all those sorts of things. But my main takeaway from this is Vader was great. And how many guys of this era, of this style, were great, and their style ported so well everywhere. Obviously, Japan, obviously WCW, in the US, WWF run was what it was. But then here as well, in Germany, you think of him doing the UWFI stuff, which was a totally different thing, shoot style. And he didn't do anything different in any of these places. He wrestled as Vader, but the Vader character, the Vader style, the hard hitting, the physically intense, the athleticism, the ability to sell when needed, all those things worked everywhere. This was a real blast to watch.
Yeah, every time I forget how much of a Vader fan I am, I see something like this, and it just sucks me right back in. And love it. I hope to see more Vader. I'm willing to see more Otto Wanz.
Otto Wanz is definitely, like I mentioned earlier, the parallels, at least in my mind, I drew to Otto Wanz and Big Daddy. Otto Wanz, there are not a lot of wrestlers I've seen that say, man, he's substantially better than that guy. I would say that Otto Wanz is a substantially better wrestler than Big Daddy. I can't imagine Big Daddy having a match this good against even Vader.
No, although now I'm thinking what a Big Daddy versus Vader match would look like.
That would have been something. I'm also thinking, could you imagine what a Big Daddy versus Otto Wanz match would have been like? And I honestly, I am super intrigued to see non-Vader matches for Otto Wanz, because he did not look technically great, and he was obviously very limited, but this is a great professional wrestling match, a great spectacle. I've not seen their 1990 rematch, but I've heard that it's at least as good. I would be fascinated to see him against other guys, and if it is Big Daddy level bad.
And if you want to request us to watch Terry Funk and Otto Wanz, you can do that.
Yes, and we want you to do that. We try not to overly influence our intentionalizers on the bonus feed, but we also sometimes do.
You can do that at the bonus feed. The bonus feed is found at patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom. Over there, we have a couple of tiers you can subscribe to. If you subscribe to the $5 tier, it unlocks over 200 episodes. We released one of the episodes from the bonus feed in the free feed last week as just a taste of what you can find over there. 200 unheard episodes plus over in the bonus feed. $5 unlocks the entire back catalog over there. We have another tier where you can be the randomizer, request shows for us to watch, and our patrons always pick fun shows, matches, TV shows, pay-per-views, lots of stuff to choose from. Movies even. Yeah, so a lot of stuff.
Wrestling-themed movies.
If you haven't checked out the Patreon, no better time than now. Patreon.com/wrestling at random. We also encourage you to interact with the show. We love to hear about if you've seen some of these other Otto Wanz matches, if you've seen if you got Vader memories to share with us, we want to hear about it too. At Wrestle at Random. No matter which shows you're watching, because all of the back content here is evergreen content. So you might be watching a show, second episode from this season. We still want to hear about it. You can drop us a message over at Wrestle at Random on all of the social media platforms. And of course, we could use your support over at the YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com, search for Wrestling at Random Podcast. There, if you throw us a like or subscribe, helps us work the algorithm so other wrestling fans can find the show. And over there, we have the video version of all these podcasts, and also the YouTube comments are a great way to interact with us on the show as well. Even if you don't consume your podcast via the video medium, throwing us a like or subscribe there helps us out, and you can continue to subscribe through all of the audio podcatchers of choice. And with that, we are going to wrap it up. We're going to call it a podcast. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Randomizer. I love when this podcast, whether it be our intentionalizers or the randomizer, scratches something off of my list of like childhood wrestling fascinations that I never got a chance to see. So yeah, good stuff, good time, fun show, and we will see what the randomizer brings us next week.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.